Chad back in the Sengoku era. Being the only human to make the king of pop shake in his boots is no ordinary feat. But despite all his power, his life was nothing short of tragic. After failing to finish off Muzan, he was cast out of the Demon Slayer Corps and spent the rest of his life in misery, forever blaming himself for letting him live. But what if he got a do-over? What if he received the classic isekai special and was reincarnated, this time in the body of Tanjiro Kamado? Could he save countless lives? And most importantly, could he finally defeat Muzan? As Yoriichi opens his eyes, he's greeted by two unfamiliar yet gentle faces. His new dad, Tanjiro Kamado, and his new mom, Kie Kamado. Still disoriented, he struggles to understand what's happening. Everything feels both new and strangely familiar. Years slowly go by, and as he grows up within the Kamado household, faint memories begin to surface. The scent of the woods, the layout of the home, and the way the sunlight spills through the same windows he once knew long ago. Then, it hits him. You see, according to the Demon Slayer fanbook, the Kamado family home is actually the very same house Yoriichi once shared with his late wife, Uta. After her death, Yoriichi left the household to become a Demon Slayer. Years later, he returned and found the home now occupied by Sumiyoshi and Suyako Kamado, Tanjiro's ancestors. That day, the house was under attack by a demon, but Yoriichi saved them. After spending some time together, he entrusted the home to them and moved on. Now being reborn into that very household, Yoriichi begins to piece it all together. Everything suddenly makes sense. He's been reincarnated into the lineage of the very family he once saved. Fate has given him a second chance. From that moment on, he vows not to waste it, and promises to put an end to Muzan once and for all. His plan is simple: grow stronger, then seek out the Demon Slayer Corps when the time is right. But it doesn't take long for him to realize something is off. His new body feels weaker, slower, and less in sync with his breathing. Then it hits him. This body lacks the Demon Slayer mark. Without it, he can't access the transparent world, the selfless state, or the overwhelming strength and speed he once possessed. Yet, in place of those powers, he inherits Tanjiro's heightened sense of smell, a gift that becomes his greatest weapon. Through scent alone, he can perceive emotions, danger, and even openings in battle. Despite losing his abilities, Yoriichi refuses to give up. With decades of experience and battle memories guiding him, he pushes his new body to its absolute limit, mastering every fundamental of sun breathing with unmatched precision. By the age of 10, he's already far stronger and sharper than Tanjiro ever was at that age. Before we continue, do me a quick favor, guys. We're working really hard to reach 100,000 subscribers and get that silver play button by the end of the year. So hit that subscribe button if you enjoy our content. It would mean the world to me. As the years pass, Yoriichi lives peacefully with his family, cherishing every precious moment, until that one fateful day when everything changes. As he descends the mountain to sell charcoal, tragedy strikes. Muzan appears and massacres the Kamado family, just as in the original timeline. When Yoriichi returns home and sees the lifeless bodies of his loved ones, memories of losing Uta and his unborn child flood his mind once more. The pain feels all too familiar, and once again, he blames himself for not being there in time. But then he notices Nezuko still breathing faintly, so he carries her down the mountain in search of help. As Nezuko turns into a demon, she suddenly loses control and begins attacking Yoriichi. To make matters worse, Giyu appears and immediately draws his blade to kill her, but Yoriichi reacts in an instant, intercepting his attack. Though his strength is only a fraction of what it once was, his refined instincts and battle awareness allow him to dodge and counter Giyu's every move with ease. Giyu is stunned by Yoriichi's skill, but he's a Hashira for a reason. He quickly regains control of the fight and knocks Yoriichi unconscious before things escalate further. As Yoriichi collapses, Nezuko, despite being a demon, snaps out of her rage and instinctively rushes forward to protect her brother. Seeing their bond and sensing Yoriichi's immense potential, Giyu decides to spare Nezuko and sends the siblings to Urokodaki for protection and training, just like in the original story. Everything would play out the same, with Urokodaki teaching Yoriichi water breathing. However, thanks to Yoriichi's natural talent and decades of experience, he masters the technique within just a few months, something that took Tanjiro 2 years to achieve. But unlike Tanjiro, who fully adapted to water breathing, Yoriichi finds it somewhat incompatible with his natural fighting style. Even so, he continues using it until he can reawaken his sun-breathing abilities. Because he masters water breathing so quickly, Yoriichi reaches the final selection much earlier than Tanjiro did in the original timeline. This means he never meets Sabito or Makomo, as he leaves Urokodaki way too soon. When the exam begins, Yoriichi clears every demon that comes his way like a vacuum cleaner. He then tracks the hand demon thanks to his heightened sense of smell and slays the demon effortlessly. Since Yoriichi passes the exam 2 years earlier than Tanjiro, he never actually sees Zenitsu, Kanao, and Genya until much later in the story. Afterward, he returns to Orokodaki's home and decides to leave Nezuko in his care until she wakes from her slumber. Determined to regain his former power, he begins a series of solo missions, wiping out demons like the Swamp Demon and saving numerous civilians. His feats quickly make him a local legend, earning him the nickname Wonder Child. Word of his strength even reaches the Hashiras. 2 years later, Yoriichi finally awakens both his sun-breathing and his Demon Slayer mark. But unlike in his original life, where the mark was permanently active, this time he can control it, turning it on and off at will. Though he's still not quite at his former peak, he's much closer to reaching his absolute potential. When Nezuko finally awakens, the siblings set out on their journey together, following the same path as in the original story.
In the Asakusa district, Yoriichi catches a scent he could never forget.
The same one from the day his family was slaughtered. He follows it immediately and soon finds himself face to face with his old nemesis, Muzan. Rage floods through him as he realizes the man who killed his new family is the very same one who destroyed his purpose in his past life. Muzan instantly gets hit with PTSD the moment he spots the Hanafuda earrings and the Demon Slayer mark. Just like in the original timeline, he turns someone in the crowd into a demon to create a distraction and manages to flee the scene. Yoriichi swiftly knocks the demon unconscious and is then approached by Lady Tamayo, whom he immediately recognizes as the same demon he once spared after his battle with Muzan. From there, everything unfolds pretty much the same, with Muzan sending Susumaru and Yahaba after him. But this time, Yoriichi takes them both down effortlessly, without needing any help from Lady Tamayo or Yushiro. As the story moves into the Suzumi Mansion arc, Yoriichi meets Inosuke and Zenitsu for the first time. The trio easily defeat the demons inside the mansion, including the former Lower Moon 6, Kyogai, and they quickly become close friends. Everything remains mostly the same until the Mount Natagumo arc, where Yoriichi faces Rui. With his Demon Slayer mark and sun-breathing, Yoriichi completely overwhelms Rui and takes him out without breaking a sweat. However, this also means Nezuko never awakens her Blood Demon art, since she is never pushed to her limits. Afterward, Yoriichi is taken to the Demon Slayer headquarters, where the Hashiras question why he's traveling with a demon. He tries to convince them that Nezuko would never harm a human, but Sanemi doesn't buy it and still harms her. This pisses Yoriichi off. And unlike Tanjiro, who only headbutted Sanemi in the original timeline, Yoriichi actually lands a few powerful blows, even with his arms tied behind his back. His strength shocks every Hashira, and before things get out of hand, Kaguya steps in. Using his foresight ability, Kaguya tells the Hashiras to trust the Kamado siblings, and that they're only here to help. Though skeptical, the Hashiras ultimately follow Kaguya's judgment, and with that, the story moves forward into the Mugen Train arc.
Everything would play out just like in the original timeline, with everyone falling victim to Enmu's Blood Demon art. But eventually, they'd all break free and defeat the demon with ease. Just when they think it's over, Akaza shows up, and this is where everything takes a major turn from the original timeline.
As Akaza clashes with Rengoku, Yoriichi activates his Demon Slayer mark and joins the fight. The battle's fierce, with Akaza now facing not one but two worthy opponents, leaving him no reason to hold back. He goes all out. The fight pushes Rengoku beyond his limits, and in this timeline, he awakens his own Demon Slayer mark. The reason he manages to awaken it is that Yoriichi has already awakened his mark, and as you guys know, when a marked Demon Slayer appears, the mark spreads to other Demon Slayers around him. With both of them now marked, Rengoku and Yoriichi unleash powerful attacks together, finally managing to behead Akaza. So Akaza's dead, right? Well, not quite. As we've seen in Demon Slayer, high-ranking Upper Moons don't simply die from decapitation. Realizing he's been outmatched, and with the sun beginning to rise, Akaza picks up his severed head and bolts into the woods before Yoriichi or Rengoku can react. And while Akaza still manages to escape even in this timeline, at least Rengoku survives and doesn't become a donut. News of Yoriichi and Rengoku nearly taking down an Upper Moon goes viral, earning them immense respect among the Hashiras. After recovering and spending some time training alongside Rengoku, Yoriichi is soon sent on his next mission, the Entertainment District, joined by Inosuke, Zenitsu, Nezuko, and Tengen. With Yoriichi now nearing his peak, the fight against Gyutaro and Daki plays out very differently. Just like in the original timeline, Yoriichi and Tengen take on Gyutaro, while Zenitsu and Inosuke handle Daki. But this time, things are far easier for the Demon Slayers. During the battle, Tengen also manages to awaken his own Demon Slayer mark, and together with Yoriichi, they decapitate Gyutaro without taking any serious damage. Meanwhile, Inosuke and Zenitsu also defeat Daki, though neither of them awakens their mark since they don't meet the requirements, having a heart rate of over 200 beats per minute and a body temperature above 39 degrees Celsius. Since Nezuko doesn't participate in the fight, she still wouldn't have the chance to unlock her Blood Demon art. Another big change here is that Tengen doesn't lose his arm or suffer any major injuries. Now, you'd think that since he keeps his arm, Tengen would stay in the Corps, but not exactly. As revealed in chapter 90 of the manga, Tengen had already promised his wives that he would retire and live a peaceful life with them once he defeated an Upper Moon. And honestly, who could blame the guy? So, just like in the original story, Tengen still decides to retire in this timeline. Before officially retiring, Tengen tells Kaguya about Yoriichi's incredible talent. Considering Yoriichi already fulfilled the requirement for becoming a Hashira by defeating multiple members of the 12 Kizuki, he ends up filling Tengen's spot. He's promoted to the rank of Sun Hashira, becoming one of the youngest, alongside Muichiro, to ever hold the title. The story continues pretty much the same until the Swordsmith Village arc. With Akaza barely escaping, and both Gyutaro and Daki gone, Muzan gets way more cautious. This time, he sends not just Hantengu and Gyoko, but also Akaza, who's itching to get his revenge on Yoriichi. As the three Upper Moons begin their attack on the village, Yoriichi immediately catches their strong scent and goes after them, with the other demon slayers, including Mitsuri, Muichiro, and Genya, following him to fight the demons. The group then decides to split up. Yoriichi faces Akaza, Muichiro takes on Gyoko, and Mitsuri and Genya confront Hantengu. Muichiro's fight against Gyoko unfolds exactly as in the original story. After Gyoko reveals his final form, Muichiro awakens his mark and defeats him, but the intense strain from the mark causes him to lose consciousness shortly after. Meanwhile, Mitsuri and Genya's battle against Hantengu proves far more difficult. Hantengu splits into his clones using his Blood Demon art, overwhelming the two demon slayers. This forces Nezuko to intervene and use her Blood Demon art for the first time. She goes full berserk mode, and together with Mitsuri and Genya, they manage to decapitate Hantengu's clones. But as we've seen before, these clones aren't Hantengu's real body. No matter how many times they're decapitated, they won't disappear. The clones then merge together to form Zohakuten, who pushes Mitsuri to her absolute limit, and she eventually awakens her mark. After a long and intense battle, Mitsuri, Nezuko, and Genya finally decapitate Zohakuten. However, just like the clones, Zohakuten's body doesn't disintegrate even after decapitation, leaving the trio struggling to find a solution. Meanwhile, Yoriichi and Akaza are locked in a fierce battle to finally settle their score. Despite Akaza's insane regeneration abilities, Yoriichi's mastery over the mark and sun breathing completely over hours of non-stop combat, Yoriichi unleashes the same technique he once used on Muzan, slicing Akaza's body so fast and clean that he can't regenerate, finally killing him before he can even recall Kyuki. After defeating Akaza, Yoriichi rushes to help Genya, Nezuko, and Mitsuri in their fight against Zohakuten. Thanks to his heightened sense of smell, he quickly realizes that Zohakuten isn't Hantengu's main body. He then tracks down the real Hantengu and goes after him, leaving the others to deal with Zohakuten. It doesn't take long for him to locate the real body and finally slay Hantengu. As the battle ends and the sun begins to rise, Nezuko gets caught in the sunlight, but just like in the original story, she develops immunity to the sun and survives. Hantengu uses his final moments to report to Muzan that there's now a demon who can withstand sunlight. Muzan becomes ecstatic the moment he hears this, and decides it's finally time to launch a full-scale war against the Demon Slayer Corps. Everything after that plays out much like the original, leading into the Hashira training arc, but this time, Yoriichi personally trains the Hashira himself. He teaches them how to awaken their marks, just like he did back in the Sengoku era. This means that even Shinobu, who couldn't awaken hers in the original timeline, manages to unlock her mark in this one. And Yoriichi himself manages to permanently awaken his mark after going through brutal training, just like Tanjiro did after finishing his training during the Hashira training arc.
The final battle begins the same way. Muzan visits the Ubuyashiki mansion to kill Kaguya, but walks right into his trap.
The Hashiras then corner Muzan, but Nakame activates the Infinity Castle, dragging everyone inside and setting the stage for the final showdown.
Since Akaza is already dead here, the Infinity Castle sends Yoriichi, Giyu, and Rengoku straight to Muzan himself.
As soon as Yoriichi sees Muzan, he refuses to repeat the same mistake of letting the Demon King escape again. So without wasting a second, he combines all 12 forms of sun breathing to unleash the 13th form in an attempt to kill him on the spot. But once again, Yoriichi's reminded that the body he has now doesn't have the same speed or power it once did. Even though he can now maintain his mark permanently, it's not the same as being born with it like in his past life. Yoriichi keeps trying the 13th form over and over, while Giyu and Rengoku create openings for him. But it's no use. The trio then decide it's best to hold off Muzan and buy as much time as possible until the other Demon Slayers arrive to back them up. Meanwhile, the other battles play out pretty much the same as in the original story. The only key difference is that Shinobu uses her Demon Slayer mark here, but unfortunately, it still doesn't give her enough power to survive against Doma. However, Kanao and Inosuke soon get their revenge and kill Doma thanks to Shinobu's poison weakening him. Zenitsu also gets his satisfying revenge on Kaigaku. And if you want a full breakdown of that epic battle, I've already made a video on it. You can check it out right after this one. Gyomei, Sanemi, Muichiro, and Genya manage to kill Kokushibo, but in the process, both Muichiro and Genya die as well. Obanai and Mitsuri create an opening for Yushiro to mess with Nakame's vision using his Blood Demon art, which forces Muzan to kill her through telekinesis. With Nakame gone, the Infinity Castle collapses, leaving the Demon King no choice but to face the Demon Slayers on the ground. All the remaining Demon Slayers join Yoriichi, Giyu, and Rengoku in an attempt to hold Muzan until sunrise. The final battle begins much like in the original timeline, with the Demon Slayers and Muzan exchanging powerful blows. However, one key difference here is that Rengoku is still alive, and he awakens his mark once again, giving the Slayers a massive boost in the fight. As the battle goes on, the Slayer's attacks combined with Tamayo's poison weaken Muzan to the point where his only goal becomes escaping. Desperate, he goes all out, unleashing every technique he has just to buy a few seconds to run away. His attacks hit Yoriichi and the other Slayers hard, leaving them badly injured. However, this is where things take a major turn from the original story. As Yoriichi lies on the ground, memories from both his past and present lives flood his mind. He recalls all the beautiful moments he shared with those dearest to him, and realizes that the one who destroyed it all was none other than Muzan. Yoriichi suddenly rises from the rubble and appears before the Demon King in an instant. He channels every last ounce of strength into one final attack, and this time, he successfully unleashes the 13th form on Muzan. The Demon King tries to do his old trick and split his body into countless tiny pieces to escape, just like he did in the Sengoku era. But this time, Yoriichi gives him no chance. In one flawless sequence, he destroys all 7 hearts and 5 brains, killing the Demon King once and for all. Yoriichi begins to smile, but this time, not while burdened by his failure to stop Muzan, but because he's finally relieved of that burden. And it's important to note that because the fight against Muzan ends much sooner in this timeline, all of the Hashira who made it out of the Infinity Castle alive managed to survive. The only one who dies shortly after the battle is Gyomai Himejima, due to the curse of the mark, as he's already 27. Unfortunately, even those who survive the fight, including Yoriichi, eventually pass away at the age of 25, also because of the